What'd you dream?
I dreamed about a guy in a dirty red and green sweater.
Well, what about the fingernails?
Oh, he scraped his fingernails along things. Actually, they were more like finger knives or something he'd made himself.
Nancy, you dreamed about the same creep I did.
Fred Krueger worked here.
It's gotta be Freddy Krueger.
Fred Krueger, Mom.
For this retrospective, I'll be giving my own reviews and thoughts of each 8 films in the Elm Street franchise. For each film, I will give a ranking from 1 to 10. Let me know in the comments which was your favourite or least favourite film of the franchise. The origins of Freddy Krueger came from an experience director Wes Craven had as a child. One night, a young Craven saw an elderly man walking on the sidewalk outside the window of his home. The man stopped to glance at a startled Craven and then walked off. This served as the inspiration for Freddy Krueger. Initially, Freddy Krueger was intended to be a child molester, but Craven eventually characterized him as a child murderer to avoid being accused of exploiting a spate of highly publicized child molestation cases that occurred in California around the time of the production of the film.
Also, who wants their villain to be a paedophile?
Craven created the character of Freddy Krueger as a metaphor for bad parenting. He stated, "He's the nasty father and the adult who wants children to die rather than help them prosper. He's the boogeyman and the worst fear of children, the adult that's out to get them."
But he's definitely not a paedophile.
The name Freddy Krueger was taken from the name of a boy who bullied Craven in high school. Tina Bray dreams she's being attacked by a psychotic man in a red jumper. During a scuffle, the man manages to cut her pajamas perfectly without causing any harm to her body. The next day, when discussing this with her friends, she finds that they all had similar dreams. Later, she throws a party with her friend Nancy where the group listen to awful music, eat popcorn and drink Coca-Cola. Later, Tina's killed in her sleep and her boyfriend is blamed. He flees the scene but later is caught, almost shot wearing his crappy leather jacket. He's then killed while sleeping in prison and Nancy steals Freddy's hat. Nancy's mom confesses the village people burned him alive for being a child murderer. Nancy decides to pull Freddy out of the dream world and into the real world. She sets up Home Alone style traps and then burns Freddy. Freddy disappears when a quilt is put over him, but then he reappears. Nancy decides she isn't afraid of him anymore, so he disappears again. Then for some reason it's the next morning and everyone's now back to normal. Then Freddy turns into a car and speeds off with them, and at the same time pulls Nancy's mother through a window. The end. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a classic, my favourite film of the franchise. Even the ridiculous ending couldn't spoil it. 10 out of 10 for that one. It's 5 years since the events of the first film and a new family has moved into Nancy Thompson's former home. Jesse is on his way to school with an awful comb over, and for some reason he never has a comb over again. The ground starts falling in and Jesse is scared by the terrible CGI lightning. As Freddy appears, Jesse wakes up and screams. The next day Jesse plays baseball and someone pulls down his pants for no reason. Then Jesse rolls around the floor in a jockstrap. Then after some kind of fight they're forced to plank. Jesse falls asleep that night and Freddy says they can work together or something.
We got special work to do here, you and me.
The next day he cleans his room, dances, then goes to school and planks again. That night for some reason a bird goes ape in Jesse's living room and blows up.
I mean, animals just don't explode into flames for no reason.
Jesse heads to bed but can't sleep, so he goes to a gay leather bar. He bumps into his gym teacher whilst there, who makes him do laps at school. He then turns into Freddy and kills his gym teacher in a very BDSM style. The next day Jesse doesn't eat at school and later turns into Freddy at a party. He kills a few people then disappears. Now it's up to Jesse's girlfriend to unpossess him into himself while killing Freddy. And she does by kissing him. And now he's not gay, or he is and he's accepted it. Not sure which. But Freddy's back anyway and he kills a girl while driving the bus all crazy. Great film, interesting take on the normal cliche of the female scream queen. Only time in horror that I've seen a gay male in the leading role. But if you didn't like that, don't worry, because the inane formula is back for the rest of the franchise. 8 out of 10 for that one. A year since the events of the previous film, and Kristen Parker is falling asleep and getting attacked. But when she awakes, the injuries on her wrist are believed to be an attempted suicide, so she is committed to a mental hospital. This is the first of many mental hospitals that we'll see throughout the series. Whilst there, she doesn't want to fall asleep, so she fights the hospital staff, because there's no way anyone could force you to sleep after becoming aggressive in a mental home. Then Nancy from the first film turns up and talks about Freddy. As it happens, Nancy is working as a therapist in the hospital and introduces all the other patients. Then Kristen falls asleep and is attacked by Freddy as a snake or something. She then pulls Nancy into her dreams, stabs Freddy in the eye with some glass, and then they both wake up. Kristen then tells Nancy how she can pull people into her dreams, and Nancy and the hospital patients are attacked in their dreams. Freddy smashes a TV over someone's head and walks someone off a roof by controlling them as a puppet. All this killing makes Freddy a lot stronger, although he seems strong enough to begin with. But anyway, Freddy stabs Nancy, Nancy stabs Freddy, and this guy performs some kind of ritual on Freddy's bones, destroying him. Then Nancy tries really hard to look dead. After that, they go to Nancy's funeral and everything's good. Good times had by all. But as the film ends, a light comes on from the model house, suggesting Freddy's still alive, or his spirit is, or whatever. For me, this is where the Freddy character starts to become cartoon-like and not so menacing. I didn't like this one, and everyone I talked to about the franchise loves this film for some reason. There really are some awful scenes in this film. 5 out of 10 for that one. The film opens to an 80s power ballad, so you know it's going to be a good one. We continue on from the events of the previous film. Kristen is traumatized and paranoid Freddy is going to return, so she starts pulling others into her dreams. But alas, Freddy is nowhere to be found. They even go to the extreme measures of showing Kristen the boiler is cold. Yeah, how can Freddy exist if a boiler isn't hot?
Freddy is dead, buried and consecrated.
The next day they go to school. They're still in school? These are the oldest school kids I've ever seen. Later that night, Freddy is regenerated by a dog for some reason. Then he kills a guy by stabbing him and turns a guy's bed into a pool again. The next day in school, some awful dialogue ensues.
How do you know so much about dreams?
Well, when it's all you have, you kind of become an expert.
What? After that, Kristen bumps into the wall, which knocks her clean out. Freddy then attacks her dressed as a woman before she wakes up. Later over dinner, her mom puts sleeping pills in her drink like Jeffrey Dahmer. While Kristen's asleep, Freddy attacks her while some awful acting ensues. After that, Freddy asks Kristen to bring one of her friends into the dream so he can kill them, and she does. Kristen then gives her dream powers over to her friend Alice and dies. Alice then starts bringing others into her dreams, who are of course killed. She later has a showdown with Freddy while doing some Mortal Kombat style moves. Alice hits Freddy with a 20-punch combination and he laughs. Then she recites a nursery rhyme which kills Freddy instantly. The next day all is well, which means that we're waiting for a cliche Freddy's still alive ending. Then Alice sees Freddy's reflection in a fountain and the film ends. This film is terrible, but it's so bad that it's good. 6 out of 10 for that one. A year after the events of the last film, and Alice is still having nightmares of working as a staff nurse. Yeah, it really starts to go downhill now. The next day, Alice graduates from high school at the age of 34. On her way to work, she somehow finds herself at Arkham Asylum, where a woman gives birth to a child who resurrects Freddy. Freddy turns up drinking champagne, and Alice's boyfriend smashes through a car windscreen at high speed, which doesn't affect him in the slightest. He then runs around in obviously pre-ripped clothes and gets on a motorbike. Freddy takes control of the bike doing 120 and then melts his skin. Alice finds out she's pregnant and Freddy kills more victims. In the final battle, Freddy's turned into a child demon thing that disappears and all's well. But as the film ends, children are humming Freddy's theme in the park. At this point, Freddy's character has become ridiculous, a parody of himself, but the film was easy to watch and another so bad it's good addition to the franchise. 5 out of 10 for that one. 10 years on and Freddy has killed nearly every child in Springwood. John Doe is the last surviving member and he meets Freddy, who's dressed as the Wicked Witch. This was a really awful introduction to Freddy, probably the worst of the series. He then runs away and falls down a hill for 30 minutes. After that, he's sent by Freddy out of Springwood to bring back more children. He's oblivious to this as he's hit his head on a rock and is suffering from amnesia. Like every other character in every other Freddy film, he finds himself in a mental home and becomes the patient of Dr. Maggie Burroughs. After that, we meet a new group of victims that the audience really cares about. In an attempt to restore his memory loss, he's taken back to Springwood. And for some reason, the amnesia patient is asked about his past. Freddy kills the victims in cartoonish, unscary ways, and John believes he's Freddy's son. But he isn't Freddy's son and Freddy kills him. After that, Freddy has his first fight with someone who isn't a teenager and he smashes his face in with a baseball bat. After that, Maggie finds out that Freddy is his daughter and they begin fighting. In the most tame, light-hearted fight of the whole franchise, Freddy is killed when Maggie blows him up. After the fight, there is no nod to Freddy still existing and the credits roll as Maggie declares Freddy's dead. Oh, and if you wear 3D glasses, you can watch it in terrible 3D. I like this one. Maybe because I loved it as a kid, maybe because it's so light-hearted. Freddy has become a cartoon villain at this point, but the film has fun with it. 7 out of 10 for that one. In this complete departure from the timeline, Heather Langenkamp is known for playing the role of Nancy in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. While focusing on her television career, Nancy dreams she's attacked by a possessed Freddy claw which kills 2 people. Later, she finds out Wes Craven is planning a new Freddy film and worries about a fictional character attacking her. Her son then starts acting like a weirdo and she's attacked by Freddy. In the final battle, Freddy really wants to kill her child, but instead he gets burned again. After that, back to reality, Fred's dead and all's well. I really like this film. Interesting direction to go with the franchise. No mental homes in this one though. 8 out of 10 for that one. The film opens to Freddy's fond memories of the children he killed. But it isn't all good because no one can remember him. Therefore he can't kill anyone until he's remembered. So he resurrects Jason Voorhees, that guy from the other film. Jason sets about killing teenagers on Elm Street, and somehow by Jason killing these teenagers it jogs a memory of Freddy. So somebody must have remembered him, but whatever. Freddy's back, but Jason is killing Freddy's victims before he gets the chance to. Meanwhile, a new group of teens devise a plan to pull Freddy out of their dreams to battle Jason. And that's exactly what they do. Oh, and at some point one of the characters is committed to a mental hospital, so we really know this is a Freddy film. Freddy and Jason have a big showdown in which Freddy cuts off Jason's fingers. He then stabs through Jason's eye and cuts him with his own machete. After Freddy's distracted, Jason rips his arm off and then they both get blown into the water. Freddy resurfaces with Jason's machete, but then Jason stabs him with his own arm. The film ends with Jason exiting the water carrying Freddy's head. But then Freddy winks, so he can still use his eyes. This one took too long to come out, so I'd lost interest by the point it had. It's okay, not great, not terrible. But there was a mental hospital in it. 6 out of 10 for that one. That concludes my Nightmare on Elm Street franchise review, with Nightmare on Elm Street being at the top and Nightmare on Elm Street 5 being at the bottom. Again, let me know in the comments which was your favourite and which one you hated.